So I wouldn't necessarily say that your movement is more advanced because you can kip. I would tell you that if you can kip any movement, you need to have an understanding of some prerequisites. One, basic strength for the movement. Two, an understanding of how to keep that tissue active in the movement. And let's just take your shoulder girdle. Your shoulders need to be active in any movement that you do, strict or momentum. Where we run into a problem is when we look at a kipping pull-up or a kipping muscle-up, people have a tendency to rely so heavily on the momentum that they disengage active tissue and quite frankly don't even realize it. So they run the risk of injury in that movement, especially when they get to their, let's just say your third round of any benchmark. So that's kind of an issue there. I wouldn't necessarily say that you're more advanced because you can do a kipping movement. However, you certainly should have a better understanding of your body and your awareness of movement with active tissue as you perform it. I think, well, let me put it this way, and I posted recently, I was looking at your website, which I love, by the way, and I was looking at all the over 50 comments that have been made about it. And I finally just couldn't stand it anymore. I went ahead and put something up there. But what I posted was that, understand the movement first. Have an understanding of what that form requirement is. And then if you understand that form requirement, then you should have the basic strength for it. If you have the basic strength for it, then you should be able to knock out many of those particular movements under your basic strength and developing that basic strength into an advanced form of strength as you go along. Then we can start adding something that's got a kip to it, if the standard allows it. I think that's the biggest thing here, guys, is what's the goal? Is your goal to know how to do the movement, or is your goal just to get your chin above that bar at all costs, or to do a muscle up at all costs? When we take something like a muscle up, we actually force people to do that movement as a strict movement, a strict form, rather than kipping. Because if they have an understanding of the placement of those rings, the fact that the rings are brought in close to the chest, placed under the armpit, and you finish with a dip, then we can start adding some momentum to it. But the goals are different. A strict movement is about strength and form. Momentum is about that clock and trying to get through that movement as quickly as possible, in my humble opinion.
So, in a workout these days where headquarters has not defined how the movement should go, then, and we all know for time, kipping is going to get us there faster. So, by all means, as long as full range of motion is being attained, kip the hell out of it, because a WOD is determined by doing it for time. And if it's not defined, then it's got to be legit for right now. But be warned that if you're always kipping and all of a sudden a WOD comes up in a competition and it's asking for strict, you're going to get basically fucked.
Well, I think I would agree with your comment. The only thing that I would add to it is, I'll take my personal experience as a firefighter. I was a fireman for 20 years. Every time I put on my gear, I weighed 84 pounds heavier. And I had never kipped over a wall in my life. Being an ex-gymnast, I know what it means to use momentum on apparatus. But if I had to climb over a wall, I didn't butterfly kip through the wall. I didn't kipping swing on the wall. I reached up and grabbed the top, highest part of that wall I could, pulled my chest up, got my foot over the top of that thing, and climbed over it. And, that requires strength. So what I try to get people to understand is make sure you've got that type of strength. If all you're doing is relying on a kip, I think the question is kind of a little bit wrong when we say, is it legit? A kipping handstand push-up's a different goal. I tell you what, when you guys go into your box one day and you put a little blanket or a little drape over your clock, and you say, you know what, it ain't about time today, it's about strength, it's about form. You're going to do JT strict. It's going to be a different workout, and it's going to take longer, and they're going to find out what their basic prerequisite strength is. Does that make sense to you?
100%, yeah.
So, if I can get people to do the same type of mindset for a strict muscle up, if I can get you to do a strict muscle, when you do a strict muscle up, when you start to kip it, well, crap, it's going to be easy. because you understand the form, you understand the strength requirement, and then we can start adding a kipping momentum movement to it to go for time. But you know, don't be surprised. I mean, I don't have any insight here. Don't take this the wrong way. I know we're all games crazy right now, but you know, don't be surprised if you walk up to the games in 2011 and they've got 15 strict pull-ups.
Yeah,
it's going to be a different outcome, fellas. You know, I've seen people at last year's games who basically worked momentum movement to go for time. And when they required a strict headstand push-up, people were staring at that wall. And that says something, I think.
just for these events, is there something they should be looking to do, you know, to avoid, you know, potential injury for people that aren't necessarily strong enough to do these strict movements and go right into the kips to get better times?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, your cream's going to rise to the top at any event. You know, whether it be regionals or just a weekend event put on by our CrossFit brethren. But I think I would tell them to make sure that they've done the workouts themselves, that they have an understanding of the movement. You know, I think the biggest mistake that a lot of the beginners make is they design all these programs and these workouts, and they haven't tested them themselves back to back, which is what the athlete themselves are going through. So they start maybe kind of pushing the edge of the envelope of maybe more of a common CrossFitter out there. I think it's great to test people. I think it's great to raise the bar. I think the standards should be equitable, and they should be good movement. You know, we talk about functional movement and what we do, and you know, a lot of people griped. Well, not a lot of people, but I mean, some people kind of griped at the, you know, go back to the 09 games, to swinging that sledgehammer on that 2-foot spike that they had. If we say that the ground was equitable all the way across that trench that was dug up prior to them getting ready to put their spike in the ground, and I was pretty happy with what Kenny and Dave did out there. I thought it was cool. What I like about it is here we are testing accuracy and strength, and we're going for time, and that's beautiful to watch. You know, you look at a lot of people out there who just didn't even know what it meant to grab a sledgehammer and swing it towards a 2-inch target. Versus, I mean, we can all hit a tire. That's pretty easy. So I thought that was a great standard and a great workout, and it showed a lot of people's stress under fire and accuracy. So I think those are the kind of ways we ought to think about some of these. You know, make them applicable to daily life. You know, as opposed to just trying to be cute or just relying on a large random volume number. You know, if you don't know what it is to pick up a log and carry it 50 yards, you might ought to find out. So that, you know, I think it's great to bring all types of different movement into these WODs. But the biggest mistake I see is a lot of people just don't really fully test them. And you know, if they do that, then we have a better understanding of what the athlete's going to go through. The athlete that comes in unprepared, they're just going to get weeded out pretty early on. And that's a testament to their own training, if that makes sense.
Cool.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Did I answer your question?
I think so, definitely.
I'm tired now.
It just got dark out.
That was a lot of very intelligent conversation.